A very good morning, children. You're on my for an economic class. As you know, in the last few classes, we are doing about the basic economic entities in economy. Today we shall take up a topic on government and its role in the economic development of a country. Okay, a bit of recapitulation in what we did in the last class. In the last class we talked about producers, the classification of producers, and the importance of the producers. All right. Well, today we'll talk about, or we will study, mainly focus on the government. Okay, so who is the government, or what is the role of the government as an economic entity in economic development of the country? We'll see that. Okay, well, who is the government? The government is an administrative or a regulatory authority who maintains law and order situation in the economy. Okay, as you know, the main objective of the government is social welfare. Usually the government works for the social welfare of the people in an economy. Okay, so the role of the government, we're going to see. The government has, the role of the government can be broadly classified into two parts. First is the direct role and the indirect role. Okay, now first we will see the direct role, and in the direct role, there are so many, in so many ways the government directly participate in the economic development of the country. Now, what are those? We are going to see one by one, stepwise. Okay, first is in the agricultural development. What is the role of the government then? Well, in agricultural development, the government adopts several measures like land reform, new land rent tenancy, economic subsidy, etc. for the growth of agricultural development. Okay, as you know that India is an agricultural country, isn't it, where more than 70% of the people, they depend upon agriculture and its allied activities like animal husbandry, cattle rearing, or poultry farming, etc. Okay, so in order to provide aid to such sectors, what does the government do? In order to provide aid means in order to help in the agricultural development of the country, the government adopts, means the government brings up various kinds of measures like land reform, or the new land tenancy system, or the agricultural subsidies for the farmers, etc. All these things are usually works in the favor of who? The agriculturist, like farmers, etc. By adopting such kind of measures, the government directly plays role in the growth of agricultural development. Okay, now let us see the next point, and the next point is industrial development. Let's see, in industrial, how does the government plays an important role in the industrial development of the economy. Okay, by setting up industries like iron and steel company, heavy electricals, fertilizers, powers, etc., government participates directly in the economic development of the country. Now see, what happens usually, the private entrepreneurs, they do not come forward for the investment of such such industries or such sectors where you require huge amount of money. Okay, private entrepreneurs usually they invest in the in the production, they in the manufacture of consumers good, where the investment is less and the return is more. But for the economic development of the country, industrial development is also equally important, isn't it? Okay, industries like heavy industries, or the cement industries, or what else are there? Iron and steel, fertilizers. These industries are also equally important for the economic development of the country. So what to do? Private investors are not investing. So here, what does the government do? The government comes forward in the investment of such industries, so that there can be a balance between consumer industry as well as the heavy industries. Okay, so this is how the government comes forward and directly participate in the economic or industrial development of the country rather. Okay, well, now let's switch on to the next point, or next role, that is the development of infrastructure. Okay, what is it? Let's see. Well, the government plays indispensable role in the development of economic infrastructure, like as I said just now, road, transport, health, education, power, etc. Okay, now see, these are the infrastructure, these are the very important infrastructure without which any economic development is not possible, isn't it? Okay, see, whether it's in agriculture or any other sector that you talk about, without without these sectors, it is not possible to, grow. Okay, all right. As I said in the previous point also, that this sector, in this kind of sector, private enterprises or a private entrepreneur do not venture. Why they do not venture? Because in such sectors the risk is very high. The risk is very high, and the income is almost sometimes zero or minimum. Very minimum income. So, and private sector, a private entrepreneur, are they in the market to make money, not for the social welfare? Well, the government may not earn a lot of money in these sectors, but usually, as I said in the previous points also, that the main objective of the government is what? Is a social welfare. Isn't it? Okay, so this is how the government directly plays a role in the economic development of the country by setting up, as I said, in the industrial the development, also by playing direct role in the industrial development, as well as the development of infrastructures like, as I said, road and transport, health and education, etc. These are also equally important in the economic development of the country. Okay, all right. Now let us switch on to the next point, the development of the market forces. And what is this? Let's find out. Well, the government plays an important role, in maintaining the balance between the market forces of demand and supply and the needs of all section of the people. Okay. Now you see, usually what happens is that the market usually favors, the forces of the market usually favors those section of the people who spend more money. Understood? The market, usually favors those section of the people or those customers who spend a lot of money. So in this situation, what happens is that the manufacturers, they concentrate more in the production of luxurious goods and all. Okay, neglecting the production of the daily necessities of life. You understood? Okay. Why? Because it's like that only. Where there is demand, where there is more demand, production will be there more there. So if the demand of the luxurious items is more, obviously manufacturer will produce those things, isn't it? So what happens is that the market is commanded by the demand only, isn't it? Okay. If the demand is more for those luxurious items, obviously they'll go for that. Understood? So in that way, the basic necessities of life, the production of basic necessities of life will be neglected. Okay. So in such kind of a situation, what happens? The government comes forward and tries to maintain the balance. Tries to maintain the balance between the market forces of demand and supply and the daily necessities of life, production in the daily necessities of life, which is more important in a country like India, where where more than 70% or 80% of the people are below poverty line. You understood? Okay, so that's it. Now let's find next point. Next is the removal of inequalities of income. Okay, how does the government plays a role in removing the inequalities of income in the society then? Well, measures like taxation policies, social security system like PPF, Public Provident Fund, or unemployment allowances, or pension facilities, or subsidies, etc. These kind of measures the government adopts to reduce the inequality of income between the rich and the poor. Okay, so the government, in order all these measures are adopted by the government for what? To reduce the gap, or to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. All right. Okay. The next point is maintenance of law and order. Okay. Now, how does it do that then? Let's find out. The government plays important role in maintaining the law and order situation in the country with its effective administrative system. Now you see all these are interrelated. Say in an economy, a development of agricultural development is taking place, industrial development is taking place, everything is development is being. But if the law and order in the country is not proper, then what happens? A lot of disturbances will take place. Isn't it? A lot of disturbances will take place, and if there is a lot of disturbances in the country, then obviously that will lead to the instability in the economy. Yes or no? So in order to maintain the stability, and in order to maintain stability in the economy, both internally and externally, government comes up with the services like the police, the army. Understood? This, with the help of this, they try to maintain what? The stability or the peace, or say the law and order in the country, not only in the country internally but also externally. Okay, so these are some of the roles that the government plays directly in the economic development of the country. Right? Now we will see the indirect roles. Well, the government not only participates directly in the economic development of the country, but the government also helps indirectly in the growth and development of an economy. So now we are going to see some of the indirect roles that the government plays. Okay, first is the monetary policy. What is the monetary policy? Well, the monetary policy is the policy adopted by the government to control and regulate the supply of money in the market. If the supply of money is more in the market, what happens? It leads to inflation, isn't it? If the supply of money is less in the market, it leads to what? Deflation. So in order to if such monetary policies are not adopted by the government, it can lead to the inflation or deflation. Understood? Okay, so next point is next role rather is the fiscal policy. What is the fiscal policy? Well, fiscal policies are the government policies that are related to the public revenue and expenditure. Through this policy, the government tries to reduce the inequality of income and wealth in the society, and which in turn helps in the economic development of the country. Okay, so the next indirect role of the government is the foreign trade policy. What is the foreign trade policy? Well, the foreign trade policies are the policies of the government which helps the government maintain what? Balance of payment and foreign exchange. Okay, in order to maintain this, the government adopts various kinds of instruments like trade duties, quotas, etc. Alright? Alright. Okay, so the next indirect role of the government is how does it play? It tries to play an important role through what? Adopting price policy. Okay, what is price policy first then? Well, the price policy is the policy of the government through which the price stability is maintained. Okay, now through this policy, what does the government do? The government tries to control the price of the commodities in the market. What is the main objective of the government here? The main objective of the government is to safeguard the common people from the exploitation of the private entrepreneurs or private enterprise. Otherwise, if there is no price policies, then what happens? The private entrepreneurs would impose any kind of prices they would like to in order to make maximum profit. Isn't it? Okay. So in order to control such kind of practices, the government adopts what? The price policy. Okay. In order to safeguard the poor people or common people from the exploitation of the private entrepreneurs. Okay. So what did we learn today? Well, these are some of the roles the government plays directly and indirectly in the economic development of the country. Okay, so today we did a very important economic entity, that is the government, its roles both direct and indirect. All right, so with this we end lesson 2. In the next classes we're going to start with lesson 3, and for your assignment, as I said, kindly catch me up in my WhatsApp group. Okay, anyways, thank you very much.